Hello, everyone. This is Rachel Lutowski, Managing Director of Fahrenheit Advisors Phoenix office. And today I'm here with you to discuss a topic called Adaptability Juice to Stay Sane. I'm here with Director Sam Rasool to share some important information with all of you on not just making it through or surviving, but really thriving during these uncertain times. Let me tell you a little bit about Sam before we dive in. Sam has almost 2 decades of management experience in both for-profit and nonprofit organizations, and he delivers pragmatic solutions for organizations facing disruption and change in this digital age. His experience as an entrepreneur, a CFO, and a COO enable him to understand a company's dynamics, identify opportunities and barriers, and deliver those people-centered solutions that organizations need for change. Sam was also a proven leader in organizational change, and he really has a tenacious passion for helping find the right alignment of resources and mission. And that's where he and I align very greatly in our experience and background. At Fahrenheit, we're really proud of the fact that Sam was featured in the Blue Ridge Business Journal as one of the top 20 leaders under 40. So I'm going to turn it over to Sam so we can have this great discussion today. Sam, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, Rachel. I think that we're setting the bar a little too high, but we will try to give people some great tips today to stay sane during this crazy time.
Absolutely, we will. We've got some good information for them.
Well, what we want to do is talk a little bit about adaptability and give you some very specific tactics that can help you adapt during this different time for sure. So I'd like to start with a quote: "The difference between stumbling blocks and stepping stones is how we use them." And today we'll learn a little bit about this being an opportunity for us to really thrive in this challenging environment. So we've heard a lot of people talk about adaptability, but let's put it in context. I think the right context is important. So we understand IQ, it's how quickly we learn. Some people call it human intelligence. We've heard a lot about EQ over the past several years in organizational development. It's how well we understand ourselves and our surroundings. But our AQ, our adaptability quotient, how well we adapt, is a combination of our current situation, our IQ and our EQ, and how we thrive, literally how we manipulate all of the factors in our world to thrive as we move forward. So today I want us to think about staying sane by flipping the script here, thinking about the challenges that we face as a silver lining. This silver lining is that we have a crisis, and this crisis is a bit of an adaptability boot camp. And it's a perfect opportunity to unlearn some things and to evolve. Now, here's why I think that this is a particularly interesting time. The reality is that everyone has seen the projections. Life in 2025, 2030 is going to be very different anyway than what we see here in 2020. So the key to succeeding, period, Rachel, I know you're coaching this all the time, isn't so much about what knowledge we have, even what skills we have today, so much as how quickly we can adapt to the changing environment. And so I think that is going to be important for us to thrive in 2025 and 2030 and for years to come. But this is an awesome opportunity, actually, to go through a little boot camp ourselves.
This is great. I'm excited about the information that you're going to share with everyone, because I do think that this is a great time for us to just grab hold of this opportunity and learn and grow from it and find that resilience that we need.
Yeah, you know, clearly there's a lot of anxiety with a lot of folks, and we're in difficult new dynamic environments. Maybe you're at home with family a lot more than you would be, and they're creating new dynamics, frustrations, etc. But we can utilize this as an opportunity to grow. So let's talk about one specific strategy and then some tactics associated with that.
Great.
We'll call this strategy adding some cream to your daily coffee, or we give it the nickname juice. Some adaptability juice as we move forward. Remember this acronym as you move forward: communication, routine, empowerment, awareness, and movement. If you can put some cream in your daily juice, then maybe it'll help you as you're moving forward day to day. Some specifics: communication. Have a list of people you call each day. Now, this is important not just for you, but it's important for them. It's important for our mental health as we move forward. And just touching base with family, so it's both personal and professional, is important. If you can, try to touch base with your team members visually on a daily basis. Even if it's just for a couple of minutes, it's important to make that visual connection, subconsciously and otherwise. I think that that is a critical component. Some people are more comfortable with the visual connection than others, but if you can, just make a few minutes out of your day to do that. Right now, we are anxious for cheerleaders, and so we don't know how people are struggling with a variety of anxieties and the uncertainty. So sending positive vibes, being as much of a cheerleader as possible is going to be critical. And think about emphasizing quality communication. Think about the way we're communicating with each other, trying to navigate some of that creative energy. And then one important thing that we often maybe don't think enough about is what we call our self-talk. How are we talking to ourselves? It is important not to go down a bad rabbit hole and to be thinking a lot about some of the negative energy that's out there. This is important for your own mental health. It's important for your relationships, and it's important for team dynamics as you move forward. The one thing I like to do when we're talking about cheerleaders is some of my friends gave me a gift. I'm going to share it with you, Rachel. They gave me boxing gloves. You see a group of them. They signed their names to it, and it's a reminder, and you might have heard this quote before, it is punch holes in darkness. Sometimes people feel like there is a lot of darkness in their lives, or maybe right now. And so your job in being a good cheerleader for folks is to punch holes in the darkness for sure.
That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. This communication piece is so critical to us right now. And that visual connection with your team is really, really important. And it's interesting, I've been talking to a lot of clients who absolutely disliked the virtual meetings prior to this. And they're having a crash course into the world of this is how it's going to be for a while. And maybe ultimately more in the future as well. But they have commented on how they're starting to adjust and really look forward to having those visual connections with their team.
Yeah, I know it is an adjustment, and it can be tough because human beings naturally are creatures of habit. That's the way the neuroscience of our brains is built. Habit protects us in a lot of ways. And so breaking through some of those habits is critical, but we're also talking today about why this can actually be a silver lining for us to thrive as we move forward. So I know in the virtual communication, people are worried about, oh, what do I look like and my hair and how do I communicate and trying, and also there's anxiety around the technology. But look, we're all going through it. So we are getting there for sure.
And I think there's a lot of grace extended too, I've noticed, with trying to figure out the technology and the communication piece, which is really nice. Like you said, we're all in it together. So let's laugh about it if we can't get it together during a certain meeting or something like that.
Yeah. We, especially because the joke is now we probably have a little more time on our hands indoor. So we've got a little more time and a little bit more latitude to extend some of that grace.
True. Well, let's talk about the next section. This is a really great one that I've been sharing with my clients as well. The routine piece is so important.
Yeah, it is. So the nuance between routine and, let's say, a strict regimen. You don't want to hold yourself hostage to a strict regimen because there may be some negative energy with not necessarily hitting all of your routine goals every day. What you are trying to do, though, is to set some goals, give yourself a little bit of latitude if you don't hit them, but it gives you just something to aspire to on a daily basis. So I'll give you a good example. So we want to try to get up at the same time we normally would every day. We want to get ready and not stay in our PJs all day if we're working from home. We want to make sure that we try to streamline things as much as we can. But if for whatever reason you didn't hit the routine as well as you'd like today, just move on to the next day, right? You don't want that negative energy weighing on you too much. But one trick, and there are many of them out there, but some people have heard of the Pomodoro technique, which basically says, find something, a task that you're going to do that for 25 minutes, and then 5 minutes integrate some kind of break or specifically some kind of physical movement, physical activity. Even if it's just brief stretching, if you want to go for a brief walk, that's fine. This isn't necessarily to replace or be exercise. Whether or not you exercise is very important, and that's something else we'll talk about. But this is important to come up with a timed schedule that can help you say, well, I'm going to go do this thing for the next 25 minutes, and then I'm going to schedule my break. Some people actually even use a timer to be disciplined about it. Whether it's 20 minutes or 40 minutes, you'll find what you're comfortable with. The key is especially if you're in a new work environment, to find some kind of technique that helps you. And when you're in these new work environments, be sure to try to eat well and drink plenty of water.
I keep mentioning that to my colleagues every day. Are you exercising? Are you eating well? Are you drinking water? And that technique is something that I actually use quite frequently for myself, and I recommend it.
It's good for your sanity in a lot of ways.
Getting up and moving, and it's actually proven to help you be more productive and more by kind of changing the mode of what you're doing.
That's for sure. Getting those mental juices flowing can help you in lots of ways. So moving on with our C.R.E.A.M. Movement here, we've got empowerment. And what we're talking about empowerment, which can be a little bit tricky for some folks to kind of envision, is trying to figure out how to empower yourself, but really try to empower other team members. And maybe we didn't do this quite, maybe you didn't do this quite as much in your more traditional work environment, but it's particularly important, especially for your mental health, for team dynamics, to think about this a good bit. So I'm a supervisor. When I have my team meeting, it's really easy for me to say, okay, here's my list of things that we want to accomplish today, and just start checking those boxes. At hand is there, people are not having the sociability that they normally would. And so one way to really try to counter that is to think about some of these tactics. Create conversation, which is open-ended, asking open-ended conversations. What do you think about this? What do you think our priorities should be today? And especially because we don't know how the dynamics are impacting folks and how their specific families or neighborhoods or communities are really being impacted. Actually, it's a really good idea to have them talk about, well, what are your priorities today? What do you think we should be focusing on? And then as much as possible, having them focus on those specific priorities. I go back from an empowerment perspective to be as positive as you can. I know that can be tough with a lot of the news that is out there today, but everything we can do specifically right now can help keep a smile on people's face for a good while. And this is an important graphic that I wanted to share with you. It's called the participation scale. And this is relevant in lots of different ways, but specifically when we're talking about the typical way we've taken information and consumed it and also shared it. It's really more of okay, here's information, I'd like to send it on down to you. Even as an organization, traditionally, it's just being pushed out, sharing out. Well, from an empowerment perspective, what we want to think about is co-producing and co-owning work. And as much as possible, when we're able to co-produce and co-own some of this work, then there's more ownership. And look, when you're asking me an open-ended question, when you're asking me about what I think my priorities are, when I'm taking ownership in whatever the project may be, even if it isn't the perfect project for that moment, for you, for your organization, people's minds are focused on this priority, on being creative. They're not necessarily mired down in the whole host of anxieties that are plaguing many folks right now. So think about not just the output of accomplishing the tasks, but also keeping yourself and keeping each other sane through this difficult environment.
This is great. And there's something about collaborating during a challenging time that I've observed gets people really engaged and motivated. And even noticing that with people who perhaps were less engaged or less motivated, or maybe more introverted in their communication style, I've really noticed as leaders are using this model, they're getting people to be more involved in ultimately those outcomes that they're producing.
It is critical, and I know sometimes it can be difficult to get buy-in because it takes some time. Sometimes you're having to build a consensus. We know how difficult that can be, but ultimately for team dynamics, it works much better than just giving a list of tactics that you want folks to accomplish. And so bring out some of that strategic energy, some of that strategic time for team members to put their priorities on the table is critical.
Absolutely.
And furthering the acronym, awareness. So awareness means a lot of different things, but most importantly is what we call self-awareness, which is a component of our EQ. But, now that most of our communication is virtual, you really lose the ability sometimes to pick up on the nonverbal communication. While we can see each other sometimes, you might miss some body language. And we know that most communication is actually not, it is not comprised of the words that we use. It is a combination of nonverbal, tone, and that can be lost in text, email. We pick up a little bit more using these virtual mechanisms, but we have to pay special attention. Awareness. This is an interesting point, not to waste this valuable time. And it's so easy for us to just be glued to the news and so much that is going on. And so to be self-aware of, am I really maximizing my time, finding new projects or hobbies? I grew up not playing an instrument, and I love the fact that my children now are learning instruments, learning a piano in particular, and how to play a piano. And so my daughter actually gave me my first piano lesson. My 10-year-old daughter gave me my first piano lesson last night. I'm trying new things as well. If if you can find a way to write out some of your feelings, that's important, just because of again, the actual neuroscience of the way the brain works. Your feelings are in one part of your brain. That part of your brain has no capacity for language. It cannot communicate on its own. And so there's a different part of your brain that's in charge of communication. So many of us have heard of our limbic brain, which is our emotional brain. And then the cortex, neocortex, is in control of language largely. And so the more you're able to write out how you're feeling, your anxieties or ambitions, or even some of your goals, it actually helps you to understand what your feelings are and to make that more concrete.
And I think that this is a great tool for teams, team leads and managers, and even leadership teams to recommend that their employees take 15 or 20 minutes each day and just write. You don't have to have a question that you're answering. You don't have to have a structure or format. It's just free writing. And the other thing that I also recommend is encouraging your children to do that as well. I have a 10-year-old son, and we have always journaled, and we're doing that even more so over the past few weeks because these little people don't always have the ability to communicate to us how they're thinking and what they're feeling. So it's really a critical piece, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up, and finding ways of being able to share that information when you feel comfortable. The kind of last bullet and the square that you see here. Some people have heard of this, the Johari window, but there are the different selves. And so being honest about your anxieties in yourself. And so in the journaling that we're talking about, it's really helping us to not only understand ourselves in many ways, but the different parts of ourselves, specifically our blind self, which are parts that others know, but maybe we don't know. And the hidden self is parts that we have chosen not to disclose to people. And it's not that, you need to tell everybody all your business. But what's important is in your blind self, in order to understand your blind self, you've got to actually ask for that feedback. Hey, Rachel, really, I would love your constructive criticism on what went well and what didn't work today in this presentation. How did I really come off? Or our hidden self, hey, Rachel, I know we have a work relationship, but there's a couple of things that are in the way I communicate. Let me tell you why I communicate this way. Maybe if you better understand, you won't take it the wrong way. And then the more difficult one is the unknown self. So we're usually in environments where pieces of ourselves cannot be explored. And so there's a piece of exploration that's got to happen there through new experiences, changing environments, different conversations from what you've normally been in.
Great.
And then lastly, in our acronym, movement. Movement is important for your physical health, but I'm stressing movement for adaptability because it's important for your mental health. Working your body even a little is good for your mind, whether it be stretches, taking short walks. I mentioned integrating the Pomodoro technique. If you have time for a few minutes of stretching or some yoga, that is fantastic. And just getting fresh air regularly. These are some tactics that I think you can try to integrate in being highly adaptable.
I just wanted to share something that I've observed with my colleagues and some of the clients I've been talking to over the past few weeks, particularly for people who aren't comfortable working at home or perhaps haven't worked at home as frequently as others. For some people, there's this real struggle that they feel like when they're working, they have to be stuck at their desk working or attached to their laptop or their computer for the entire stretch of their working hours. And again, I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but really, if you are able to get up and move for 10 minutes or 5 minutes and take a little break and maybe go for a walk throughout the day, not only does that help you physically, as we're talking about with this particular piece of the acronym, but it also does help you mentally, and it helps you be a little more productive and creative when you come back to your work.
Yeah, I think it's something that we need to keep reminding ourselves, and a lot of what we share today is just that. We've maybe heard much of it before, but putting it into a framework that gives us these regular reminders so we can check these off our list, hopefully will help people not miss this opportunity to go through this adaptability boot camp that we're going through. So that way, when we come out on the other side, we come out a lot stronger.
Absolutely. Great. So, Sam, thank you so much for guiding us through this session today. And I hope that all of you take the opportunity to take notes on our acronym C.R.E.A.M. And I know most of you have coffee or tea in the morning as you're getting started with your day. Attach this to your routine first thing in the morning. Go through each of these, each piece of this acronym, and make sure that you're setting yourself up for success as much as possible. And remember to be kind to yourself and be kind to others. This is really a difficult time right now, and it is an opportunity for us to learn those adaptability skills and those resilience skills. Sam, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.